If I would have given the green light, they would have did something. And I wouldn't want nothing to happen to somebody just for saying somebody, on a scale from 1 to 10 is a 0. It was an insult.
But that insult had already traveled too far and reached the wrong ears. When Biggie stepped on stage in Sacramento, he walked into the consequences of those careless words.
So, Big goes on. He's performing. All of a sudden, they start throwing coins at him. I'm like, yo, what the f is that about?
The coins were just the beginning. What waited in that parking lot would turn confusion into pure terror.
Turn around, I'm like, oh, it's a gang of dudes with guns.
While Biggie faced those guns, miles away, E40's phone was ringing with a question that would decide everything.
11 at night.
40, what you want me to do with this nigga? Biggie, what you want us to do with him?
That moment didn't just happen out of nowhere. This was months of tension building up, all starting from what looked like some innocent magazine interview up in Canada. But see, in late 1994, the notorious B.I.G. was sitting pretty at the top of the game. Ready to Die had him crowned as the King of New York, and success meant doing interviews with magazines from all over the world. Peace magazine, this Canadian publication that covered hip-hop, got an interview with Biggie during this time when everybody wanted a piece of him. The setup seemed simple enough. Get his real thoughts on his peers using a rating system, rate each rapper from 1 to 10. But here's where it got dangerous. Biggie was drinking heavy throughout this whole conversation.
Back in the day, I think it was 94, around 94, 95, Big had did an interview in a Canadian magazine. Like he was rating everybody on the scale to from 1 to 10.
And when you're drunk, that filter between your brain and your mouth gets real thin. Biggie was going through his list, rating different artists. When they asked about Tupac, despite all their growing tensions, he kept it relatively balanced, acknowledged Pac's skills while critiquing some of his production choices. Snoop Dogg got a solid 8 out of 10. That showed real respect for what Death Row was doing. But when they got to Bay Area artists, something changed in Biggie's whole approach. Maybe it was the alcohol talking, maybe it was that East Coast attitude, or maybe he just didn't understand what these dudes represented to their communities.
It was you and Spice 1. He gave Spice 1 a 2 and gave you a 0.
A 0, bruh.
Yeah.
You feel me? Even if I didn't like him, I wouldn't give him a 0.
Like a 3 or something.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, 3. Give me something.
The numbers alone were insulting enough. Spice 1 got a 2, E40 got a 0. But Biggie didn't stop there. His alcohol-fueled assessment went deeper into character assassination territory.
Short story long, it came to rating me, and from a scale from 1 to 10, you know what that man gave me?
0.
A 0, bro. A 0, and I'm a platinum artist at the time.
0 wasn't just a low score. It was complete dismissal of a platinum artist who had been grinding and innovating in the Bay Area since the late 1980s. But the worst was yet to come. He was talking about Spice 1. From a scale of 1 to 10, he would say, Spice 1 is a 2, E40 is a 0. I hate that dude. Like, what? Bruh? You ain't ever even met me. Why you hate me? I hate that dude. Those 4 words would travel from a Canadian magazine to the streets of California, where they would find the ears of people who took such statements as personal declarations of war. E40 wasn't just some random West Coast rapper trying to make a name for himself. By 1995, Earl Stevens had built something powerful and authentic in Northern California. His innovative slang had influenced the entire West Coast lexicon. His business acumen had shown independent artists how to build sustainable careers without major label support. His authentic street connections had earned him genuine respect from Sacramento to the Bay Area. More importantly, he had a crew of loyal associates who saw attacks on E40 as attacks on their entire community and way of life.
My youngins, my little young hyenas, they so sneaky. I didn't even know that they was. I didn't even know on everything. I didn't even know dude had a concert in Sacramento.
These weren't music fans upset about a bad review or industry competitors angry about market share. These were street-connected soldiers who understood that in their world, public disrespect demanded immediate and serious response. They had access to weapons, connections throughout Northern California, and most importantly, the patience to wait for the right opportunity to address Biggie's insults face to face. When word of Biggie's comments reached their ears through the underground networks that connected hip-hop communities across the country, they began planning something that would teach the Brooklyn rapper about the consequences of running his mouth about people he had never met. And fate was about to deliver Biggie directly into their hands. Several months after that disastrous Canadian interview, Biggie received a booking for Sacramento. To him and his management team, it represented just another show in another city, another opportunity to perform for fans and collect a paycheck. They had no idea they were walking into a carefully orchestrated trap that had been months in the planning.
We're in Sacramento to do a show. We get there, it's like a warehouse. And we don't see too many cars, we don't see, it's a little weird. So we're like, well, I guess the crowd is light tonight.
The venue was wrong from the very beginning. Instead of a proper concert hall or established club where major recording artists typically performed, they found themselves at a warehouse-like space with an eerily empty parking lot. Inside, maybe 15 people scattered around the cavernous space. For an artist of Biggie's caliber and drawing power, this felt deeply suspicious. Larry Burns, Biggie's experienced manager, had overseen countless shows across the country. He knew what normal venue conditions looked like, understood crowd dynamics, and could sense when something wasn't right. But even his years of experience hadn't prepared him for what they had walked into.
They have a DJ playing, and we're still looking around, we're like, it's not a lot of people here. It's maybe 10, 15 people at the most.
What they didn't understand was the true nature of this event. This wasn't really Biggie's concert at all. It was something much more dangerous.
See, it wasn't a Biggie Smalls concert, it was a Lil Bruce concert, so let's get that straight. The motherfucker was packed, so say it was empty. I don't know what you're talking about.
Lil Bruce was E40's cousin, a significant figure in the Sacramento hip-hop scene, with his own following and his own reasons for wanting to see Biggie face consequences for his disrespectful comments. The venue had been genuinely packed during his performance, filled with his supporters and associates who understood exactly why they were there.
Soon as I rocked the mother so long that these had to pull the plug on me. Yeah, get off stage. Biggie Smalls got to get on stage. Who is that? We don't even know who the he is really at this point.
By the time Biggie took the stage, most of Lil Bruce's crowd had strategically left the building. Only those with specific business remained, people who had been waiting months for this opportunity to address the disrespect that had been festering since that Canadian magazine hit the streets. Despite the strange atmosphere and hostile energy, Biggie performed with the professionalism that had made him one of the most respected artists in the game. Years of experience had taught him to deliver his best, regardless of venue conditions or audience size. But what he encountered during his performance went far beyond typical crowd indifference.
So, Big goes on. He's performing. All of a sudden, they start throwing coins at him. I'm like, yo, what's that about?
Coins hitting the stage wasn't random disrespect or ordinary crowd hostility. In performance culture, throwing coins at an artist is one of the most insulting acts possible, treating a platinum-selling recording artist like a street beggar performing for spare change. Each coin that hit the stage carried a specific message. You're not welcome here, your music means nothing to us, and you crossed the wrong people. The coin throwing was psychological warfare, designed to humiliate Biggie and make him understand that this wasn't a normal performance situation. The sparse crowd that remained wasn't there for entertainment or to hear their favorite songs. They were there to send a message, and every coin was punctuation in that message.
This Pac or whatever, I done heard this name in the magazine or whatever, talking about Pac, 40, and Spice One.
As Biggie worked through his set under the barrage of coins and hostile stares, he thought the worst part of the evening was behind him. He had performed under difficult conditions before, dealt with unappreciative crowds, and survived hostile venues. But what waited for him in the parking lot would make the coin throwing seem like gentle criticism. The real confrontation, the one that had been planned for months, was about to begin. After finishing his performance to the hostile crowd, Biggie and his crew headed toward their limousine, expecting a quick escape from Sacramento's strange and unwelcoming energy. They thought the coin throwing and hostile reception had been the worst of it. They were catastrophically wrong.
We head out, get to the back. The limousine is there, but the driver's gone.
Their driver had vanished, not randomly, not because of a scheduling mix-up, but by deliberate design. Someone had specifically instructed their transportation to leave, stranding them in a parking lot that was about to be transformed into a potential crime scene. This level of coordination indicated planning that went far beyond spontaneous anger. Then came the sounds that would haunt Larry Burns for the rest of his life.
All of a sudden, you start hearing the trunks of cars opening. You just hear boom, 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 boom. Like, what the hell is that?
Car trunks slamming open in unison throughout the parking lot created an ominous symphony that made it immediately clear this was a coordinated military-style operation. Multiple vehicles had been strategically positioned around the venue, their occupants waiting patiently for this exact moment to retrieve the weapons they had stored for months.
I turn around, I'm like, oh, it's a gang of dudes with guns.
What emerged from those car trunks wasn't a collection of small handguns or street-level weapons. These men had come prepared for war, armed with serious firepower that demonstrated both their resources and their commitment to making Biggie pay for his disrespectful comments. Little Bruce stepped forward as the primary confronter, and his choice of weapon made the situation's deadly seriousness crystal clear to everyone present.
I had that 50 on me, that Desert Eagle, you know what I'm saying? Talking about my people's ain't for play out here, for real out here.
A Desert Eagle .50 caliber handgun, one of the most powerful and intimidating weapons available on the streets. This wasn't about intimidation or making a point through implied threats. Little Bruce had come prepared to kill, and he wanted Biggie to understand exactly why he was about to die and who was responsible for putting him in this position.
Gun you down in this nigga. And at the same time, I got two caterers behind me, right? I got niggas, these is my.
The threat was explicit and immediate. Little Bruce wasn't alone. He had backup, multiple armed associates who were equally prepared to use deadly force. This wasn't a single angry individual acting on emotion. This was an organized response from a disciplined crew that had planned this confrontation with military precision.
Now, the limo door was open, so I was able to put Big in there. They come up and they just very irate.
Larry Burns managed to get Biggie into the limousine, but they were surrounded with nowhere to run. The confronters approached with fury that had been building for months, and they made their motivation absolutely clear.
That was some bullshit the man said in the newspaper. He did the article about my man. We can ready to get him.
The motivation was crystal clear and left no room for misinterpretation. This wasn't about money, territory disputes, business conflicts, or any of the typical reasons for violence in the music industry. This was purely and specifically about those magazine comments, about Biggie rating E40 a 0 and claiming to hate him. In their world, such public character assassination carried a death sentence, and they had spent months planning exactly how to carry out that sentence. Surrounded by armed men in a Sacramento parking lot, with his transportation disabled and no backup in sight, Biggie faced the consequences of words he had spoken drunkenly months earlier in what he thought was a safe, professional setting. His celebrity status meant nothing here. His platinum sales provided no protection. His reputation as one of the greatest lyricists in hip-hop history was irrelevant to people who operated by different rules and had different definitions of respect and consequences. In this moment of absolute terror, Larry Burns made a decision that would determine whether hip-hop lost one of its greatest voices that night.
I said, you know what? Get that man on the phone. I think that man and Big need to talk.
It was a desperate gambit born from crisis management instincts and street wisdom. Burns recognized that this conflict was ultimately between two principals, Biggie and E40, and that the armed confronters were acting on behalf of someone who might have a different perspective on appropriate consequences. His suggestion worked because E40's crew respected his authority and understood that major decisions should be made by the man they were representing, not by soldiers acting on their interpretation of his wishes. When E40's phone rang at 11 p.m. that Sacramento night, he faced a decision that would test every aspect of his character, wisdom, and leadership. On the other end of the line, his most loyal soldiers were asking for permission to take a life in defense of his reputation and honor.
They called me like 11 at night. 40, what you want me to do with this, man? I got this Biggie, and what you want us to do with it?
The easy response would have been to authorize violence. E40 had every justification for letting street justice take its course. Biggie had publicly disrespected him in the most insulting way possible, dismissing his entire career and claiming to hate him personally. In the street code that governed much of hip-hop culture, such disrespect demanded serious consequences. But E40 chose a different path, one that demonstrated remarkable wisdom and long-term thinking. Instead of immediately authorizing violence, he chose to speak directly with the man who had insulted him.
So they called me and he put me on the phone, say, man, what's happening? What was up with that, situation? Man.
What happened next was remarkable. A direct, honest conversation between two of hip-hop's most talented artists that would save a life and prevent what could have been one of the most tragic nights in rap history.
Man, they got me real drunk, man, and I just got to saying anything, man, and what else he said? He said, man, Duke, he said, I f with Sprinkle Me, Duke. I rock with Sprinkle Me, Duke. You know what I mean?
Biggie immediately took full responsibility for his comments. He didn't try to deny what he had said or blame the journalist for misquoting him. He admitted he was drunk, explained that his comments were alcohol-fueled stupidity, and, most importantly, showed genuine respect for E40's innovative contributions to hip-hop culture. I Sprinkle Me Duke, I Rock with Sprinkle Me Duke was E40's signature slang, and Biggie was essentially saying he actually appreciated and respected what E40 brought to the game. The phrase "Sprinkle Me" was one of E40's linguistic innovations that had influenced West Coast hip-hop vocabulary, and Biggie's reference to it showed he was actually familiar with and respected E40's work.
And I was like, well, I didn't trip. I was like, man, I told him, I said, put my folks on the phone. Say, let him do his thing, man, let him go.
The conversation lasted approximately 5 minutes, but those 5 minutes were enough to completely transform a potentially deadly situation. E40 recognized that Biggie's explanation was genuine, that the original comments had been made under the influence of alcohol, and that there was no real ongoing disrespect or animosity between them personally. But E40 didn't just call off the immediate threat. He understood that other individuals in Sacramento, not under his direct control, might still try to harm Biggie for street credibility, personal reasons, or simply because they felt violence was the appropriate response to the disrespect that had been shown.
Listen, I'm gonna have 2 of my boys escort y'all back to the hotel. And they're gonna stay there until y'all catch the plane in the morning. Because I don't know what any other knuckleheads is gonna do to you.
This level of personal protection and guarantee of safety showed E40's sophisticated understanding of the broader dynamics at play. He recognized that calling off his own people wasn't sufficient. He needed to actively protect Biggie from others who might see harming him as an opportunity to gain respect or prove their loyalty to the Bay Area hip-hop community. Little Bruce, despite being the most aggressive during the initial confrontation and clearly wanting more direct action, demonstrated the discipline and respect for organizational hierarchy that characterized E40's crew.
It was like this. Hand me the phone for a second. He like, Lil Bruce. 40 tell me like this, 40 tell me like this. He like, Lil Bruce, I be in New York, and I be by myself. So if you smack, somebody gonna turn around and smack me, basically. So I was like this, all right, cuz I'm gonna get this pass.
E40's explanation to Little Bruce revealed the strategic thinking behind his decision to spare Biggie's life. He understood that violence against Biggie could trigger retaliation against him personally when he traveled to New York for business or performances, creating an endless cycle of violence that would benefit no one and could potentially destroy careers, families, and lives across both coasts.
And I fell in line with the whole situation. And you know what I'm saying? Biggie Smalls rode away with his life.
The discipline shown by Little Bruce and the other armed associates demonstrated the respect E40 commanded and the effectiveness of his leadership. Despite their anger, despite their weapons, despite their opportunity for revenge, they followed his orders because they trusted his judgment and understood that his decisions were made with the broader interests of their community in mind. That Sacramento night, Biggie paid the ultimate price for his careless words. Not his life, but something perhaps more valuable to a man of his stature: his pride, his sense of invincibility, and his belief that fame could protect him from real-world consequences. He walked into that warehouse as the untouchable king of New York and left as a humbled man who had begged for his life over a cell phone, saved only by the mercy of someone he had publicly disrespected. The night Biggie dissed the wrong Bay Area gang became the night he learned that words have weight. Respect must be earned, and sometimes the price of ignorance is measured not in money or fame, but in terror and the permanent knowledge that you survived only because your enemy chose wisdom over revenge.